Unit 5, Chapter 15, The Lone Star State, Lesson 2, Early State Government. Guiding question, or what political party did most Texans join in the state's early years? Terms to know: similar, alike. Nativism, bias toward or favoring of the interest of native-born American citizens. Participate, to take part in an activity or event. Reservation, land set aside for Native Americans. Here's a biography on Frances Cox Henderson, the wife of the first governor of the state of Texas. She was a remarkable woman. She could speak 18 languages. Wow. Wrote and translated short stories and was a talented musician. Frances Cox was born in Philadelphia and educated in Europe. In London, she met James Pinckney Henderson, at the time the ambassador to Great Britain from the Republic of Texas. They married in 1839. The Hendersons settled in St. Augustine, Texas, where James opened a law office. Since Frances had studied law, she did his legal work when he had to travel to do work for the Texas government. When James was elected governor of Texas, Frances chose to remain in St. Augustine. Frances was a strong community leader. She helped establish several churches in East Texas and worked for the women's right to vote. Wow, she was something. 18 languages. Here's a campaign poster. Picture of a campaign poster back then. Politics in early statehood. Guiding question: what political party did most Texans join in the state's early years? James Pinckney Henderson was elected as the first governor of Texas in 1845. He took office in February 1846, once Texas was officially a state. Early Texas had strong political leaders like Sam Houston. Henderson and Houston were similar or alike. Henderson, like Houston, had fought for independence. He had served the Republic as Attorney General and then as Secretary of State. Henderson had also attended the Convention of 1845 that wrote the state constitution. However, by the mid-1800s, political parties began to influence Texas politics. Texas, like much of the rest of the United States, had two major political parties. They were the Democrats and the Whigs. At times, smaller parties such as the American Party, also called the Know-Nothings, played roles in Texas politics. The Democratic Party became dominant in Texas and throughout the South for several reasons. They tended to represent farmers and workers. They generally supported Texas annexation. They also tended to support the continuation of slavery. During the 1840s and 1850s, however, the Democratic Party split over the issue of slavery and the Western territories. Political parties in early statehood. Democratic Party splits. Southern Democrats, led by Jefferson Davis, wanted to allow slavery in all the territories, and Northern Democrats, led by Stephen A. Douglas, felt each territory should set its own policies on slavery. In the 1840s, the Whig Party was powerful in New York and New England. Many Whigs fought against the annexation of Texas. Northern Whigs also tended to support moral reforms such as ending slavery. This meant that many Whigs opposed expanding slavery into new territories. Eventually, many Whigs joined the Republican Party when it formed in the 1850s. This party also tended to represent the business interest rather than farmers or workers. Because these positions generally went against the views of Texans, the Whig Party was never strong in Texas. In 1854 and 1855, some Texans joined the Know-Nothing Party. This group believed in nativism, or favoring the interest of native-born Americans. The Know-Nothing Party was secretive. When members were asked about their organization or activities, they were supposed to reply, "I know nothing." The Know-Nothing's main issue was stopping immigration from countries such as Ireland, Germany, and China. They also opposed immigrants who practiced certain religions such as Catholicism. Political parties in early statehood. Party: Democrats. Issues: pro-slavery, represented farmers and workers. Whigs. Party: Whigs. Issues: moral reforms, anti-slavery, represented business interest. Party: know-nothings. Issues: nativism, wanted to stop immigration from certain countries. Anti-Catholic. Some groups had no voice in any party. Women did not have the right to vote or participate in politics at this time. Enslaved African Americans had no rights. Even free African Americans were denied the right to vote or to join political parties. Native Americans were not recognized as citizens and were not allowed to vote either. The new Constitution of 1845 did give Tejanas the right to vote, however. State and federal issues. Guiding question: how did Texans increase their rights and responsibilities at the local level? Following changes to the Texas Constitution in 1850, Texans could participate more fully in governing themselves. People in towns and cities and on ranches and homesteads began to have a larger say in local affairs. The Texas Constitution of 1845 gave the governor the power to appoint many state officials. These included the Attorney General and the Secretary of State. However, in 1850, the state constitution was amended or formally changed. It now allowed voters to elect more state officials. Texans even got to vote on whether to keep Austin as the state capital. In 1850, the city received a majority of the votes, so it remained the capital of Texas as it is today. Another election was held on the same issue in 1870, and Austin won again. As more people moved west, clashes between the new settlers and Native Americans increased. The United States government wanted to protect its citizens. To accomplish this, the federal government forced many of the Native Americans living in Texas out of their homelands. They were relocated to reservations. These were lands set aside for Native Americans. Native Americans were moved to reservations within Texas at first. Later, they were moved to the Indian Territory north of the Red River. Many settlers in Texas opposed the federal reservation system. They believed that raids in northern and central Texas were organized by Native Americans from the reservations. Some raids were carried out by groups who refused to move to the reservations. In other instances, Native Americans left the reservations to raid, then returned to the reservations for protection. Texans were happier about another federal plan to protect them. The government established a string of forts along the frontier. The forts were located from Brownsville west to Eagle Pass and north to the Red River. Over time, as the frontier edged westward, the line of forts moved as well. Settlers approved of the forts because they protected and encouraged settlement.